Ladies and gentlemen, it's Adam Von Romer again, author, speaker, seminar leader, 37-year veteran of the commercial investment real estate world, and founder of the Commercial Investment Real Estate Academy. Anyhow, today's mission, we're going to talk about the actual proposal process itself. Now, I've got to tell you something. The proposal process is kind of daunting when you first get started. Your first proposal will probably take you the better part of a week, and I jokingly say it'll make you cry. But after a little practice, you can get it down to just a morning. And in some cases, I've had proposals I've done in an hour and a half. Remember my comment earlier about RealNex and how I store everything. Well, if I don't have to go hunting for my comps, rent comps, sales comps, I've got it right there on my desktop. It makes that job so much easier to do. So let's talk a little bit about the proposal process. Real quickly, the proposal process involves underwriting. And this is how we're going to establish the value of the property. We're going to use the income cap approach to valuation. We're going to use the comparable sales approach. And I'll show you how you can get some resources that'll help kind of inform your thinking as to the pricing of a particular property. Now, I want you to understand that I look at a bunch of metrics. I look at what a comp is sold for. I look at what the income derives. I also look at the price per square foot in the marketplace. And there's some really cool resources out there that you can lay your hands on for free. Don't tell them I said that. But that you can grab off the internet. Marcus and Millichap, C.B. Richard Ellis, Cushman and Wakefield all have research departments. My personal favorite is Integra Realty Resources. They publish the Viewpoint reports, and they are spectacular. In fact, a lot of times I like to include them in my proposal. So if the seller wants to argue about my pricing scenario, I have the documents right there. The other thing is, know this: whenever I propose a price on a particular property, I don't propose a finite, here it is number, take it or leave it. I usually give myself some wiggle room, so I'll price it between a range. The other thing is, and this is absolutely critical to your success, is you've got to start couching the information you're providing, not in terms of what you think it's worth, but you blame it on the market. Tell them the market indicated value is X. Because if you tell them it's your opinion and they don't like it, they get mad at you. But if you tell them that it's based on the market, well, it's a little hard to get mad at the big amorphous meatball known as the market. You can't point fingers at it, you can't yell at it, and you certainly can't throw it out of your office. The market is what it is. You got to think of it, it's almost like it's an iceberg. There it is. You can't change it no matter how much we wish. It is what it is. So again, blame it on the big amorphous market. Don't take any responsibility for it. It's not your opinion, it's the market's. Next up, I want to talk about comparable sales. Now, I know you probably heard this in real estate school, but comparable sales mean buildings of similar size, style, configuration, age, utility, and location that have traded in the last year. Not 3 years ago, not 5 years ago. We're not going to get into making market time adjustments. And sometimes you'll find this a little difficult to do. But if you're tracking deals and you're putting them in, like I said, into RealNex or some other, even if it's manila folders, you've got it. Years ago, I used to keep a folder because every day in the Daily Business Review, they publish the deal of the day, and there'd usually be about 6 of them. And I would track those for the whole year. I just copy them, poke holes in them, and put them right in the binder. But that way I had all that information. So remember, they're similar in size, style, configuration, age, utility, and location. Now, the other thing I don't want you to get hung up on, and I'm going to have somebody argue this, is location. And when I say location, I don't mean in the same neighborhood. I mean in the same general flavor, if you will. So in my area, we have Las Olas Boulevard, which is like Rodeo Drive in California. It's also like Worth Avenue in Palm Beach County or Lincoln Road in Miami-Dade County. Well, if I've got a retail building for sale in Las Olas and it's 2,000 square feet, I'm going to have a real hard time finding another 2,000 square foot building that's traded in the last year on Las Olas. I'm going to look at other Tony areas just in the market that have similar, utility. And I want you to think about that. High-end freestanding retail. The other thing you got to think about when you're talking about comparable sales is if you're selling a 300 acre lumber yard, it's going to be real hard to find 300 acre lumber yards in the neighborhood that have traded in the last year. So you're going to have to kind of expand your search and look beyond what you would traditionally look at. So keep that in mind. Rental comps, we're going to look at direct competition. You know, again, similar size, style, configuration, age, and utility. I used to be able to speak English. And again, what are we looking at? Same utility. You know, office building for office building. You know, a mushroom building with a mushroom building. As close as we can get in that configuration and utility. We're not going to look at an apartment building versus an office building, or retail versus industrial. So we're going to have to compare them head to head. And also, we want to get them as close as possible. But remember that locational thing, that locational aspect. I told you to drive your market. There's an area in my market where literally it's bisected by a set of railroad tracks. On one side of the tracks, a warehouse goes for $6 a square foot. On the other side of the railroad track, it goes for $1 a square foot. What's the difference? Why does that railroad track do the dividing and change the value drastically? The east side of the railroad tracks is what they consider to be the wrong side of the tracks, and the west side is the right side of the tracks. And guess what? The rents go that way. So again, what makes those changes? What side of the tracks you're on. And then finally, how do you put it all together? You know, what do you use? I use the RealNext proposal wizard. I think it's exceptional. But there's also a proposal wizard by a buddy of mine named Jeff Selleck, which is phenomenal. And you know, there's Build Out and a couple others out there. Now the problem with them is they're incredibly expensive, especially if you go to use Build Out. Some of these services charge as much as $5,000 for a proposal. Well, if you're selling a 4-unit apartment complex, that doesn't make any financial sense. I've got to tell you, I've got a little secret, but I've done proposals using PowerPoint that would absolutely knock your socks off. And everybody's got it. It's easy. All you've got to do is come up with almost a branded shell, if you will, and then just follow the steps. What goes in and why? Where do you put it? And it's simply a matter of cutting and pasting. So again, in fact, I even had an Excel spreadsheet that I use for proposals. So don't get hung up on the tool, get hung up on the format. How do you put it together? And then finally, form versus format. You know, don't, again, get wigged out by what it is or its format. What you're trying to do is it's more important to deliver accurate information than how sexy it looks. You could have a proposal that's absolutely stunning, but completely wrong. So I want you to think about form and making sure that the proposal you do hits all the points and pricing that you need to recognize. Listen, that's the overview on the proposal process. Again, questions, comments, clarifications, reach out to me. I'm not going to repeat it again. I think you know how to do it by now. I wish you all continued success, and I'll see you on our next video.